So, over the weekend, I've been playing a lot of Outriders, the new expansion World Slayer. Played about 25-ish hours. And, man, it's such a great game, but the systems in place right now they just need so much work, especially if people can fly are working on a sequel. Right now, I see the potential Outriders has, and I think others do as well. And I truly believe that Outriders as a franchise could be this generation's Borderlands. Because you've got Borderlands 1, which is not a perfect game, but it lays the foundations for a great game, which then turns into Borderlands 2, which many consider to be, without a doubt, one of the best looter games of all time. And I genuinely believe that Outriders could have this same turnaround. But to have that happen, I think they need to make some core changes to the game. The mod system is fantastic in its current state, sort of. It's great in the way that they all work together. They flow very, very well. They very much thought through every single mod in the game. But as of World Slayer, the mods. So in the base game, the gear, guns, and armor had 2 mods. So when something dropped, you only really needed one of those mods to be the mod you needed. Then the other one you can just change it. Whereas now in World Slayer, it's 3 mods, one of which is locked, so you can't change it. And then you've got to hope that one of the 2 changeable mods is the one you need. And you've got to hope that the locked one is something you can use. Then the third one, hoping it's one of the non-locked ones, you can just change it. So if in Outriders 2 they bring this mod system back, which I very much hope that they do, it is a great system. Either bring it back down to 2 mods, but make the mods more powerful to make up for going back from 3 mods, or the game Outriders 2 launches with 3 mods on guns and armor, but all 3 are changeable. I think this opens up build diversity, experimentation, because at the moment I don't think experimentation is really possible in the game outside of theory crafting on paper, because you still need to actually get items with 1 or 2 of the mods that you want on it. Next, I want to talk about just the game in general. I think they've really held themselves back. The final boss of World Slayer, Ereshkigal, was pretty poor. I don't know if that was just them making a mistake, if they didn't really test it, but it just didn't feel like a good boss fight. Luckily, Tyria Guitar fights feel a lot better, so I guess that's all that matters, since you only got to do Ereshkigal once per character, I guess. But I think another thing that needs to change is, in general, the content of the game. There's no benchmarks. So let's take example Path of Exile, right? Another very popular looter game. Sure, when you get to the end game, you get to the maps, which are similar to the expedition systems, but that's it. Sure, you might get a boss at the end, but the bosses don't do much. I don't even know if any of them have invincibility phases. And the ones that I've seen just don't. It just have mechanics as a normal elite. So what I think needs to change is actual benchmarks, like super bosses, that obviously every different builds are going to fare against this boss, but it never changes difficulty. So like going back to Path of Exile, one of the most famous bosses from that game, the Shaper. That boss has a slam attack, and if you could survive that, your build was tanky. The difficulty never hired, never lowered. The damage stays the same every single time. Well, provided you're not debuffed or buffed or whatever, right? But the damage stays exactly the same unless you go for Uber Shaper, Uber Elder, whatever, right? So I think what the game needs is similar bosses where your builds are going to be pushed to its absolute limits, but designed very well to actually accommodate for the gameplay systems of running and gunning. And I think they've nearly done that with I can't remember the name, but the final boss of Tyria Qatar. That Dark Armaments attack, well, I don't think it's great, it's not very choreographed well. That's a good start. And another example is Borderlands 2's raid bosses. They also have unique drops in Path of Exile and Borderlands. And that leads me on to my final point. Outriders has a big problem with loot. The loot in itself is great, but it's the acquisition of loot. It reminds me of launch Borderlands 3 in that you just kill when Borderlands 3 launched, every legendary in the game apart from like I think 1 or 2 was world drops. So the gameplay loop of Borderlands 3 was going into Grave Ward because he was the quickest boss kill because he does he have invincibility phases? I can't remember. It's been like a year since I played Borderlands 3. But you go into there, kill the boss. Oh, don't get what I need. Oh, save quit, retry. Oh, this time I got exactly what I needed. Oh, but there's nothing to use it on, right? Apart from like the not Slaughter Dome, whatever it's called, Circle of Slaughter, whatever it's called. And that's very reminiscent of how Outriders is right now. You go through Tyria Qatar. You can quote unquote target farm now, which, by the way, is not optimal. Which is, I think, is a big problem. The most optimal way to go through Tyria Qatar is just run straight to final boss, kill the final boss, return to lobby, kill final boss again until you run out of attempts, and that's the optimal way to play the game. Like, sure, you can go back to the expeditions and do like the final tier 15 special one. You can test your build on like, I don't know, Apocalypse tier 40, I guess, against this expedition and Tyria Qatar. But again, it's just the same content over and over and over and over again. It gets boring. And I think build variety like that is also a problem. No, I think it's fine, mostly. And I think another remedy of like having everything, like everything under one boss, getting everything from Tyria Qatar, right? Is like the side quests. These are, I don't want to say completely unique side quests, but they typically have a boss at the end. Give these bosses dedicated drops that you can't get anywhere else. And then once you've done it once, it doesn't make it obsolete. I think the same with quest rewards. Have that so that you can get, so when you finish a Tyria Qatar, a quest, whatever, you get to pick between 3 guns, 3 pieces of armor or whatever, right? Just 3 of something. Have it so that it's I don't know, say you do one of the hunts, right? You finish the hunt, you get to pick between 3 guns. But all 3 guns are unique. They're all the same gun, but they've all got different mods. They've all got different stats. So then you can pick out of that gun that you need for your build. I think things like this are like, it's just what the game needs to thrive. Like more build variety, more content variety, item variety, because like sure, you can get a LMG, right? And it's got a tier 3 mod on it. Cool. But then you can also get 2 more mods on it and then replace that quote unquote unique mod. It's a completely different gun. It's not the same gun anymore. So I think they need to, like, all the assault rifles are pretty much the same. They don't have different fire rates. They don't have, everything about a gun is different with mods. If you take the mods out off of all, obviously you can't take mods off a weapon, but if you took all mods off of all the quote unquote legendary, unique assault rifles, they're all the same gun. So I think they need to just expand everything about this game. Strip everything back, apart from maybe gameplay. Don't strip that back, just expand on that. But everything else, stripped back, and just rebuild. Oh, people really like the game. Base game and World Slayer would have been out, I don't know, a couple years. I don't know if they've started work on Outriders 2, but I hope that they look at Reddit, YouTube videos, Twitter posts, everything. Just look at all criticism, everything people like, everything people disliked, and just strip everything back and rebuild it. Because, as I said at the beginning of this video, I genuinely believe that Outriders can be this generation's Borderlands. And Outriders 2 could be the equivalent to Borderlands 2.